Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Bergstrom, and I'm the superintendent of the Oregon School District, and this is the one board meeting each year that I have the opportunity to call to order. So today is Monday, April 27th, 2026, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. here in the Innovation Center at Oregon High School. Katie, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Bush? Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Here.
Dr. Lakuta?
Here.
Ms. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Here.
Mr. Pankratz?
Here.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is proof of notice for tonight's meeting, which will be with Katie if anyone wishes to inspect it. Next is the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. Do we have any discussion? Katie, would you please read the roll?
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Dr. Bush? Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. We have an agenda. And that takes us to item A, which is reorganization. And item A1 is board members' oath of office. I can report that our 3 newly elected board members have taken and timely filed their official oath of office. So we will move on to item A2, which is election of officers. The board uses Robert's Rules of Order to elect its 4 officers: president, vice president, treasurer, and clerk. These duties are outlined by statute and in Board Policy 173. Any election of an officer may be by secret ballot should the board pass a motion to that effect. Where the number of votes constitute a quorum, a majority of those votes is sufficient to elect an officer. Nominations may be made by any member and do not need a second. To start, I will take nominations for the Oregon School Board President.
Nominate Troy Pankratz.
What?
Sorry, do you need to finish that?
Nope, go.
I would like to nominate Troy Pankratz for school board president.
Thank you. I'll make one last call. Are there any other nominations for School Board President? Nominations are now closed. We have a motion and we need a second to cast a unanimous ballot. Thank you, Leslie. Is there,
That was just a nomination.
thank you.
Sorry, should I make that motion?
Doesn't matter.
I'm making the motion to nominate Troy, I'm making a motion to cast a vote for Troy Pankratz for president.
And then we need a second to that motion, please. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to cast a unanimous ballot. Is there any discussion? Katie, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
That motion carries. Mr. Pankratz, do you accept the position? Thank you. I will hand the meeting over to the new president, Mr. Pankratz.
Sorry, I needed a point of order in there. I assume, Mr. Pankratz, that you meant to abstain from the vote because there is a financial interest in that position.
Thank you for that point of order.
Just to be on the cautious side.
Thanks, Gina. I voted yes because I do accept the position, and I appreciate the board members for your trust in me to serve another year as president. So much appreciated. All right, so we will move right along. We will now continue with our vice president. So I will entertain nominations for the Oregon School Board Vice President. Are there any nominations?
Oh, I'd like to nominate Mary Lakuta for vice president. Should
All
I
right.
go ahead and make the motion for that or not yet? Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor to nominate Mary Lakuta. Are there any other nominations? I'll make one last call. Any other nominations for vice president? All right, nominations are now closed.
So now I'm gonna make a motion to cast a ballot for Mary Lakuta for vice president.
All right, so Heather has made a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Mary Lakuta as vice president. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Nathan. Is there any discussion? Nathan. Seeing no discussion, Katie, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta? Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Dr. Lakuta, do you accept the position of vice president?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move along. I will entertain nominations for the Oregon School Board Treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Hensel for treasurer.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? One last call. Any other nominations for treasurer? All right, nominations are now closed. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to hold a unanimous ballot for Mr. Hensel for treasurer.
All right, we have a motion to cast a unanimous ballot for Mr. Nathan Hensel as our treasurer. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Bush. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, Katie, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
I believe I'll abstain.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Mr. Hensel, do you accept the nomination as treasurer?
I do, and thank you for all of your trust in me. Thank you. Happy to serve.
Thank you. Next up, I'll entertain a nomination for the Oregon School Board Clerk. Do we have a nomination for the clerk?
I'd love to nominate Leslie for the school board clerk.
All right, we have one nomination for Leslie Wright as School Board Clerk. Are there any other nominations? Last call, any other nominations? All right, nominations are now closed. I would entertain a motion.
I move to cast a unanimous ballot for Leslie for school board clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Bush. Is there any discussion? All right, Katie, call the roll, please.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison? Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
I'd like to abstain.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Ms. Wright, do you accept the nomination for clerk?
I do accept the nomination for clerk. Thank you for having your trust in me.
All right, thank you. We have a new slate of officers, so here we go. We are going to move right along and go to our consent calendar. So we have the consent calendar in front of you. I'll draw your attention to a couple of field trip requests. And there are a couple of announcements, but first let's get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Motion by Dr. Lakuta. Is there a second?
I can second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar as printed. Is there any discussion? I would like to make some recognitions. So we have some retirements tonight. We have Michelle Baltus, our 6th grade teacher at RCI, retiring after 25 years of service to the district. Thank you, Ms. Baltus. Lana Lipinski, retiring after 20 years of service as a special ed assistant at RCI. And we have Joan Howery, 31 years of service as a 6th grade teacher at our RCI building. So very much appreciate the dedication of those long-standing district employees. And then I would also like to recognize our donations this month. So we have Lisa Christensen, who's donated a clarinet to the OMS band. We have Summit Credit Union with a $500 donation to the Summit Credit Union Scholarship. We have Ross and Tracy Riddell, $500 for the OHS band program. Caitlin and Peter Young, $500 to the OSD Band Advocates. And then Friends of the Orchestra donated $199.50 to for field trip transportation. So very much appreciate those donations from our community members. And with that, let's just see here. Yes, ready to call the roll on that, Katie.
Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Mr. Hensel? Yes. Ms. Bijak? Sorry, Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Dr. Bush? Yes. Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. It's going to take us a little while to get used to our new setting here. So, all right, moving on to our informational items. We'll start with our superintendent's report for student highlights. Dr. Bergstrom.
Well, thank you, because tonight we're featuring youth apprenticeship spotlights, and our first spotlight is on Brady. He is working as an intern at JT Engineering, and as an intern, Brady is helping to design roadways, curb ramps, and all things to help bring together a functional roadway system that can be used by everyone. So way to go, Brady. And our next student is Ava. Ava works as a member service representative at Heartland Credit Union. In this role, Ava assists with financial transactions, creating and ordering checks, balancing drawers, printing member cards, and closing out at the end of the day. Sophomore and junior years are the perfect time to investigate youth apprenticeship options. Contact your school counselor and Ms. D'Amelio, our school to career coordinator, to discuss any options. We also, very related, we have our Future Business Leaders of America students, FBLA, competing at state. So congratulations to this group who recently competed in the 2026 FBLA state competition in Green Bay. Students earned their invitation to this competition based on their performances in the regional competition in February. Students competed in the following categories. Alexis competed in banking and financial systems, Amy in cybersecurity, Bryn in human resource management, Ava and Lila in leadership academy, Samuel in organizational leadership, and Andre and Karthik in website design. Additionally, Amy and Bryn qualified for the FBLA national competition, which is held this summer in San Antonio, Texas. Way to go. So thanks to our club advisors, Mr. Wamley and Mrs. Ochterberg, for supporting our team and making this opportunity a reality for these great students. One more, because this one, oh my. Congratulations to the OHS robotics team called Orange Overdrive, who qualified for the first robotics competition world championship in Houston, Texas. It's only the second year that this team has demonstrated excellence. It has been a team, and they've demonstrated excellence in mechanical engineering, electrical systems, CAD, programming, and business skills. Orange Overdrive qualified for the state tournament after reaching the playoffs in the first two competitions and was one of only 2 second-year teams to qualify. The team also earned the Rising All-Star Award, and team member Anish received a First Leadership nomination. Orange Overdrive is now one of only 12 Wisconsin teams headed to the World Championship later this week. I think they're leaving tomorrow. So a huge thank you to the team advisor, Mr. Nate Johnson, for providing this incredible opportunity for our students. Best of luck to our 12 team members attending the World Championship. And that's Anish, Duncan, Elizabeth, Karithkia, Logan, Matthew, Rowan, Sean, Sienna, Soren, Sri, and Zach. We're rooting for you.
All right, thank you. Great report as always. Next up, we have our public comment. So we do have several guests registered for public comment. I will start by reading our policy for public comment. So we have District Policy 180.05, which provides an opportunity for the public to address the board. We value the public comment period and feedback from our stakeholders. To comply with open meetings law and to ensure consistency, public comment will have the following parameters. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to make their comments. Ms. Katie Heitz will signal the speaker when their time is up. The board will not comment after each speaker and will reserve discussion to any items on the agenda. Speakers are welcome to stay for the entire meeting. Next steps following tonight will be may include referral to the appropriate administrator for follow-up with the speaker or placement of the matter on a future board agenda. So those are our district policies in order to align us with our open meetings laws. So with that, we'll start with Kelly Trapp. Kelly Trapp, you can join us up at the speakers table. And Ms. Jonan will make sure the mic is on. And then Kelly, if you could just state your address as you begin. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Kelly Trapp. I live at 2861 Endive Drive in Fitchburg. Good evening, members of the school board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As I said, my name is Kelly Trapp, and I am the parent of a future kindergartner in this district. My husband and I chose to buy our home in 2020, specifically because it is in the Oregon School District. Even then, 2 years before our first child was even born, we hoped that there might be a Spanish immersion option available by the time we had a school-age child. Now, 6 years later, the Oregon School District remains one of the few in the area that does not offer one. Our daughter Sloan will be starting kindergarten in fall of 2027. Since she was just 3 months old, she has been in a Spanish immersion in-home daycare where the provider speaks very little English. Sloan is fully bilingual and communicates with her daycare provider in Spanish during the 40 hours per week that she is in her care. This is an incredible gift, one that has shaped how she communicates, how she learns, and how she understands the world. This is a gift my husband and I cannot fathom taking away from her when she starts kindergarten. I'm here to strongly support the addition of a Spanish immersion kindergarten program. Families like mine are looking for educational opportunities that prepare our children, not just academically, but for the real world, one that is increasingly interconnected and multilingual. Early language immersion isn't just about learning Spanish. It strengthens cognitive development, improves problem-solving skills, and builds cultural awareness and empathy at a foundational age. Just as importantly, programs like this help districts stay competitive. Many neighboring districts already offer immersion options, and the families are paying close attention. We want to stay here. We value our community, our schools, and the relationships that we have built. But we also have to make decisions based on what we believe is best for our children's future. So I want to be candid. If a Spanish immersion option is not available, our family intends to open enroll in Madison. We are not alone in considering this path, and this isn't a decision we make lightly. It reflects a gap between what we are seeking and what is in the district. It attracts and retains families, strengthens enrollment, and signals that this district is forward-thinking and responsive to the community needs. I urge you to seriously consider this opportunity, not just for my children, but for the many families who want to remain here and see the district thrive. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Trapp. Next up, we have Stephanie Bergman. And I understand we may have more speakers in the audience that have not signed up. You will also have an opportunity to speak. So, welcome. If you could just start with stating your address, please.
Sure. My address is 495 East Richards Road. My name is Stephanie Bergman, and I have one child that's currently in the Netherwood Knoll kindergarten class. I have actually two children, though, that are at, excuse me, sorry, I'm a little nervous. That was a very great speech to follow. I have two children that started at the Mariposa Learning Center at around 3 to 4 months of age. And so it started their growth and honestly heard way more Spanish than English Monday through Friday in their waking hours than they heard English. And despite being a scientist, I'm actually coming to you not with data about brain development or growth or anything like that, but I wanted to share an anecdotal story of something that I witnessed that really showed how impactful being in a language immersion program really was. So this was something that occurred with my daughter when she was, I think, just turned about 4 years old. And she was at a birthday party for one of her friends. And this birthday party was a friend who came from a English learning house or English speaking household, but invited her Mariposa friends, who my daughter likes to call her amigos, as well as so in attendance at this party were her primarily English-speaking friends, as well as some Spanish-speaking friends and teachers from Mariposa. At this party, I got to witness the way that my daughter could interact with people who primarily spoke both English and Spanish, switching between the languages depending on which student or which of her friends she was talking to. I also got to witness her asking a question to her teacher. I asked her, hey, can you go ask your teacher this question? She translated on the spot and asked her teacher the question. Now, admittedly, I don't speak a lot of Spanish myself, so I can't guarantee that the translation was accurate, but based on the teacher's response, I believe the intent at least got across. What really drove this home as being so impactful to me is that my daughter grew up in an environment that showed her that people who speak different languages are not others, they are friends. She got to learn that her community can be much greater than just people who speak her own language. She gets to learn about other cultures, and she gets to learn about other languages, other people, and it expands the community that she's able to build while she's growing up in these very fundamentally important ages. So I very strongly support implementing a Spanish immersion program in the Oregon School District to just further expand upon the growth that she had in the first 4 to 5 years of her life, as well as for my other daughter who just turned 3, so will be entering the Oregon School District in just a few years. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Laura McFarlane.
Hello, good evening. I've had the chance to speak with many of you in the past, including Dr. Bergstrom, over 1.5 years ago now, but it's a pleasure to be able to speak to the full board tonight. I'll try to be brief. I live at 1057 Alpine Parkway in the Village of Oregon. I have a daughter who's in the 4K program at Mariposa. She's been there since she was 3 months old. And it's hard to believe that was 4.5 years ago now, and that she's looking to start kindergarten. Time has flown by. I will share that I have high standards for where my daughter is cared for and by whom she is cared for. I can attest wholeheartedly that there is no better location than Mariposa to care for a child. And I strongly urge you to consider working with them on developing an immersion program. You cannot go wrong, and I can say that with full confidence. I won't go through a whole presentation of the benefits of learning another language. You've heard a couple already. Highlights include improving long-term academic achievement, literacy, and cognitive skills. It's because of these benefits that I have worked with Dr. Bergstrom, and I've spoken to the board before, because my hope is that my daughter will be able to continue her Spanish language experience in the school district. I was hopeful that by this fall, that there would be one in place for my daughter to start kindergarten here learning Spanish so that she would not lose the Spanish that she has gained. I'm impressed on the daily by her fluency, her ability to go back and forth between languages, as Stephanie mentioned. But if there is not a program, I will have to make that tough choice about potentially moving or going in an open enrollment position to another district. I have seen ads for Verona School District advertising their Spanish immersion program. I know that this is a concern for many other parents in addition to myself. I can tell you that there are quite a few parents here today. This is just a drop in the bucket of the parents at Mariposa who care about this issue, and I think across the community. I know some of my friends are watching at this very moment. I will just end by saying that I think one of the most critical benefits of learning another language, especially at a young age, is the development of empathy. And I think that is a skill that is needed now more than ever. I have a niece and nephew, twins in the high school, and I'm impressed on the daily by the school district, but I think empathy is still something that needs to be developed a little bit further here, and the tolerance of people who speak different languages and come from different backgrounds. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Katie Godfredson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Godfredson. I live at 4887 Hickama Road in Fitchburg. I don't really have anything prepared, but I just want to echo what you've already heard about the Spanish language immersion program. I think the reality is that there are a lot of community members that do speak Spanish on a daily basis and as a first language. I think that there are a lot of local school districts that also offer this program. And when it's time to send our kids off to college, having a second language is an incredible asset. And so for those reasons, I'd like to also voice my support for having a Spanish language program in the Oregon School District. I have 2 kiddos here, ages 2 and 4, and unfortunately we couldn't get a babysitter, so they are also here. But I think also just demonstrating how important this is, to have the Spanish language program available for them to continue their education and their ability to speak in both languages and be bilingual. So, thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I'll take a shot. I'm having a hard time reading the name here. Absalom? All right, very good. Welcome to the table.
My name is Absalom Munoz. I live at 2819 Endive Drive in Fitchburg. Didn't know this was going to be a forum to speak at, so I'm going to try my best. My background's a little bit different, as I am a lifetime Mariposa Learning Center graduate, if you will. Patricia is my mother, so. Little bit different, but I think the message still stands strong. Myself, coming from California and immersed myself in the Oregon School District as a teenager, I got to be taught by Miss Warner, in my Spanish classes here in Oregon. So this is very familiar for me. But the passion that I saw from her, at that stage of our education, multiply that by 10. By someone at Mariposa Learning Center. But again, and Laura said this as well, standards are something that's very important, and something that we hold dear. My daughter, Elena, who is sitting right there, is not only is Spanish a language for her, but it's an identity for her as well. So it's something that's very important, very near and dear to our hearts, and we hope that you see that as well. So, short and brief. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kevin.
Hello, everyone. I also did not write a speech today, but if I were to write one, the first speech is what I would have said. So, I was very impressed with that speech. I echo a lot of those same thoughts. So I'm just going to try to add some additional considerations that I had when I was hearing some of the speeches and thinking about some of the experience that I've had as someone that's lived. We live in the community. We live in Fitchburg. We live 5186 Nine Bark Drive in Fitchburg, which is just outside of the district for Oregon as it stands. There's a lot of people in that neighborhood who open enroll in the Oregon School District, right? And they face a tough decision. One of that decision is that for us, we have a daughter that's been in Mariposa for 5 years. She's fluent in Spanish now. She tests the same in basically English and Spanish as it stands, which is a tremendous asset. When we go around the community, right, she can speak to Spanish speakers, which there are a lot of. This community has a lot. Take a look at You go down, up and down Fish Hatchery Road. It's not very far before you see all of these Spanish stores, shops, all sorts of places. Oftentimes, before I was at Mariposa, I overlooked some of these things. That's rich value in our community, tremendous opportunities, and even some things you wouldn't expect. We were at a play place the other day, owned by Venezuelan immigrants to this community. There's a lot of investment by some of those folks that are in this community, and it's great to be able to connect with them by using their language. I find that in my time at the Mariposa Learning Center, one of my things that I was really interested in is learning and practicing the language. Every day that I'm there, despite sometimes the teachers not necessarily interested in talking to me for hours and hours, I love discussing and just getting to know them, right? And just getting to understand kind of where their background is, what they're thinking, the investment they have in the students, right? It's what's great about that community in the school is that they treat the students like they're a family, right? And it's really apparent when you walk in there. And that is what I feel when I go into all of these places around the community. You feel like a family, and the first thing that you do is you recognize that by speaking language. It opens up all of these doors that you don't necessarily close, but it's just something that helps you to connect, right? And it's something that I think is really tremendously valuable. Getting back to my other point of my non-prepared speech, is that at the current time, a lot of people in our neighborhood face this choice, right? We're going to go to Madison schools as it stands, but we're much closer to Forest Edge, right? In fact, the Mariposa School is just outside the door of Forest Edge Elementary School, and there is no Spanish program there as it stands. That's unfortunate, as our first speaker eloquently outlined, right? We would really like to have that, as would most of the people in our community. The other thing that I think is relevant is the fact that there are 20 or more students coming out of Mariposa each year that are now fluent in Spanish, looking for something to go into, right? And many of them would love to continue in Oregon. And that's where we're at right now. It's a very difficult choice. Many of the parents out here are struggling with that choice. Do we continue in Spanish? Do we move to this school district? We open and roll over here. Fitchburg doesn't have one, right? And so we have this challenge, and it's a battle, and it's very difficult. I would love... The end. So, in the non-prepared speech, I appreciate your time. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. And now we do have an opportunity for anyone who has not signed up to join us at the table and share your thoughts.
I currently live in Fitchburg, Rebecca Alvarez, but I just bought a home in Oregon, so I will be moving in. Their address is changing, it's new construction, but 182 Toronto Avenue, in case you need it. All right, like I said, my name is Rebecca Alvarez, and I am actually a teacher in the Verona Area School District. I teach social studies in both English and Spanish in the two-way immersion program. I've been teaching in Verona since 2021, and before that I worked at Della Vendarian School District, where I also taught in a bilingual program. This work has been a consistent part of my career and something that I care deeply about. In Verona, I've had the opportunity to work with the first two-way immersion cohort. This year they are graduating, and it's been really meaningful to see the growth over time, especially in how they use both languages to learn, think, and express themselves. Because we were the first cohort, I had the opportunity to help build and create much of the curriculum from the ground up, which gave me a deep understanding of what it takes to start and sustain a program like this. On a personal note, I recently bought a house in Oregon, and I'm very excited to be a part of this community in a more direct way. My future daughter on the way will be a part of this community and school district, so when I heard that Oregon was exploring the possibility of a bilingual program, I was very excited. My nephew currently attends Mariposa, and knowing he will eventually move through Oregon schools makes this especially meaningful to me. I also know from experience that building a bilingual program is very complex work, and that the benefits from learning across, it takes benefits to learn from different districts. But we're very fortunate that we're in a region where there are established programs in places like Madison, Middleton, and Verona. And there's a lot that we can learn from them, what has worked and what hasn't worked. I would really welcome the opportunity to stay in contact with whoever it may be to be a resource as this work develops. I would be happy to offer support and share my experience in any way that is helpful as Oregon moves forward with these conversations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Yep, welcome. Come on up.
Hey, I'm Julia Benjamin. Apologies for not signing up. I live at 2765 Osmondson Road, and I'm in a very similar boat as Kevin and his family. So technically, we're zoned for Madison School District, but our kiddo has been in their child's class for his entire life and is fluent in Spanish, and we would love to be able to have a space where he could continue learning Spanish. I think for our family, it's definitely about the importance of having empathy and respect for cultures other than just our own. And I think also, I know somebody spoke to the benefits in college applications, and I would say just as an adult human, so I work at the Children's Hospital and speak a little Spanish, but wish every day that I could speak more directly with my patients, because it's such a loss not being able to communicate with people on their own level, in their own terms. And I think we are one of the few countries in the world, frankly, that does not have standard education for all young folks where they learn more than just one language. And I think that makes us a lot less competitive in a lot of ways, as well as just a lot less empathetic. So I would love us to help cultivate a community that sees the entire world as our home, including folks that don't speak the same language that we speak at home. And I couldn't think of a better place for that to happen than here in Oregon, and with the Mariposas staff, who definitely are a family and take better care of our kiddos than I could even have imagined. So thank you so much for welcoming us here tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Hello. Is this still not working? Oh, it's working. Okay. My name is Erica Hansen, and I live at 6050 Sun Valley Parkway, town of Oregon, not village of Oregon. So we have kind of a different problem where we live it's not a problem. We live closer to the Verona School District, so we're right by Costco, so kind of on that area where it would be pretty easy to send our children to Verona instead. But I have two children. One is currently at Netherwood Knoll in kindergarten. And then we have another one who is 1 and attends Mariposa. And my older daughter she was in Spanish immersion daycare of some sort from the time that she was 1 until she went to 4K at Mariposa. And it was a really great experience for her. Mariposa is such a loving and accepting community. She loved to go there. She loved every single one of her teachers, and my son does too. So I think our biggest thing we did want her to keep learning Spanish, and she is to some degree learning Spanish, because as a kindergartner, she does get a half hour, I think, every 2 days a week. But I can definitely tell that her Spanish has been going downhill since she started kindergarten. And that's really sad to see, especially compared to some of her friends who are continuing as kindergartners to have that Spanish immersion in the Madison School District. And so it's very sad to see her friend continue to learn Spanish and grow with that and maintain it even. And my daughter has really lost a lot of it. So I am hoping Mariposa also does a summer program, so I'm hoping she can relearn some of that. But overall just feeling really sad that Oregon School District is one of the few school districts in the area that doesn't seem to have additional Spanish immersion programs. Otherwise, we really want to stay in the Oregon School District, but it is definitely an option for us to, at some point, switch to Verona if we wanted to do that, either with our older daughter or our son. So it would be really nice if by the time he was in kindergarten, that was an option, or even just pushing the Spanish language even a little bit more than just, an hour a week. So I think that's all I have, but thank you all for listening. And I do think the Oregon School District is a really great place to go to school. And so you guys should all think you're doing a good job. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Other speakers?
Hello. Good evening. My name is Gabriel Gottfredson. My wife Katie already spoke. I'm also at 4887 Hickama in Fitchburg. I was not planning on speaking tonight, so I'm going to keep this very brief. I think most other people have made a lot of good points. The only additional point I would like to make is that on top of all, the wonderful things with learning Spanish and test scores and all this, it also, studies have shown that it helps students develop a deeper understanding of the English language as well. Just learning how language works and being able to switch between the two is hugely beneficial to language acquisition, not just with Spanish, but English as well. I think everybody else made a lot of good points, so I'm just, like I said, I'm going to keep it very brief and in there, but I have would very much love to see Oregon School District adopt some sort of Spanish immersion program. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Going twice. Any other speakers? Last call. All right. Well, we appreciate our guests sharing your part of your evening with us and sharing your thoughts. We always appreciate hearing from our community members. So next up we have, what do we have? Official designations. So, oh, thank you, Katie. Yes, OEA report. Is there an OEA representative here to make a report? No report tonight. Okay. Now we can go to official designations. Thank you, Katie, for keeping me on track. We'll start, and Dr. Bergstrom, are you taking this, or am I?
I certainly can. I think that if we wouldn't mind, I'd like to start with 1B, the resolution for the investment of district funds. Or do you take all of them, Andy? I wasn't sure.
I haven't, I can take
start
them
with
all,
1B.
if you, okay, go with 1B. So this is the resolution regarding the investment of funds. There's no changes except there are 4 added words. And I had planned to have them highlighted, but they're not. And those 4 highlighted words are identical to each other, 2 identical words. And that is, we added the NCUA as another, in the 3rd paragraph under section 1, as another place that we could have investment. NCUA stands for the National Credit Union Administration, which is a governmental agency just like the FDIC. It just opens up another investment vehicle that would be insured for the district, and it was recommended by our financial advisor to include them to just open up another thing without adding any additional liability or risk associated with basically these investments. So those are the only changes, and you see that on the same line it's duplicated there. So that was the only thing that we changed from last year's investment schedule or policy. Are there any questions?
Gina, I'm recognizing we skipped the newspaper. Can we?
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back. Okay. All right, any discussion or any questions on the investment of district funds resolution? We'll start with clarifying questions. If there are none, we would entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve, my wording right here. Our investment, darn it, I lost my, thank you. Yeah, the resolution regarding investment of district funds. Thank you. Thought I had it on my screen, but I scrolled off the other page. Apologies for the stumble.
All right, motion by Nathan. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Lakuta. Any discussion on this item? So a very routine mirror image of what we've approved in the past with the addition of NCUA as Mr. Wyland described. So with that, this is a contract, so Katie, please call the roll.
Mr. Hensel? Yes. Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. All right, now we will go back to our newspaper.
Absolutely. And we are proposing, as has been all years in the past, the Board of Education designate the Oregon Observer to be the official district newspaper.
All right, any clarifying questions on that? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the, excuse me, the Oregon Observer as the official district newspaper.
All right, motion by Dr. Lakuta. Is there a second? Second by Heather. Any further discussion? All right, Katie, please call the roll.
Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Ms. Garrison? Yes. Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Dr. Bush? Yes. Mr. Hensel? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. You get to continue to partner with our local newspaper, the Oregon Observer. All right, our next item is the resolution for our depositories. This is resolution number 2026-03. Mr. Wyland, what would you tell us about the resolution?
Yeah, this is very similar to what we've done in the past, in fact, identical. I can tell you that the depositories that are listed there, we use 5 of them regularly, but it has been our past practice to list basically all the banks kind of in our area and occasionally shop certificates of deposit, those types of things, just to make sure that we're getting the best rates that we can. So we regularly use one community bank, BMO Bank, State of Wisconsin Investment Pool, which is actually in Madison, Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative, and PTMA Financial Services. That's PMA Financial Services. They serve as our financial advisor as well. So they place CDs actually throughout the United States. So yeah, that's what we're looking for, is very similar to what we've done in the, identical from what we've done in the past, to make everything work.
All right, any clarifying questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the depositories.
I'll go ahead and make that motion that we approve the resolution for depositories.
Motion by Nathan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Matt. And any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, Katie, roll call.
Mr. Hensel? Yes. Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We have depositories, place to put our money. All right, now we will move to our appointment of representatives. We have 4 items here, starting with CISA 2 delegate. And I can't recall who served in that. That was Nathan in that capacity last year. So looking for volunteers to serve as CISA 2 delegate. Nathan, maybe you could describe what that entails. Did you attend the meeting? I think it's typically one meeting per year.
There was one meeting, and I had a work-related conflict, so I would say it was a pretty easy assignment for the year. And I do believe they signed me up for a listserv, which I did my best to follow along. Taking the treasurer role, Matt, if you're looking to begin your service on the board, it's certainly not something that I'm highly recommending or encouraging, but it's a good entryway into a role if you're so interested.
I think that's a great recommendation. It's a nice way for a new member to get some exposure and learn some things about school districts. So CISA 2 is a what is it?
Service agency.
Cooperative Service Agency. So it's there are a number of them around the state, but they're helpful in school district operations in various capacities. And what the delegate role entails is there is one meeting per year that in person where you come together, and then like Nathan said, there's some electronic communication to keep up to date on. So if you would entertain that role, we would love to see you in that role.
I'll entertain that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I need to move to?
No. These are just appointments. Yeah. Nope. So this is just an appointment. So if you accept, you will be our new CISA 2 rep. So thank you. Next up is our WASB delegate. Dr. Bush served in that role for 1 year, 2 years maybe? 2 years. And I know this is probably your favorite day of the year. So I'll give you the first right of refusal if you want to serve in that role again or if you want to defer.
Well, the better question is, does anybody else want to do it? That's the better question. Oh,
I would like to second that and then go ahead and close the nominations.
I will do it again.
Okay.
It's, it's kind of entertaining to be at the convention and the delegate assembly. It's always lively, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I don't mind doing it.
Yeah, I know you. I know you find interest in it, and you've done a great job.
It's very sociological.
Yes. All right. So we will appoint Caleb as the WASB delegate. Next up, we have our board committees. So this year we will continue with our 2 committees, which is our policy team and our visioning team. So I'll start with visioning. So this year I'd like to appoint Nathan, Leslie, and Mary to our visioning committee, and I am appointing Nathan as our chair. So, and then that leaves our policy committee, which will be Heather, Caleb, and Matt. And Heather will be our chair for policy. So that is our path forward. And Matt, thought that the policy committee is a great place to start. It helps to get your grounding on how we operate under our policy governance model to be a part of that committee. So, and then our last designation tonight is our OSD Wellness Committee, and I will need a reminder of who did that last year. Anna did that last year. So we do need a new Wellness Committee appointee, and I do recognize that we just missed the meeting. I think there was a Wellness Committee meeting just last week that fell between our board reorg. So, any volunteers for the Wellness Committee? Okay, thanks, Leslie. Leslie will be our Wellness Committee representative. Okay, well, thank you all. So looking forward to our new arrangement this coming year. All right, next we have item number 3, which is our EduStaff contract for our guest teachers. And Dr. Bergstrom will start us with this, I believe.
Of course. This actually will be a proposal that Gina discusses in depth, but I want to point out that it is an outcome from the Professional Sustainability Task Force, and it's connected to work that we have been doing for quite some time, and Gina will give us some details on that.
Thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. So we are looking for a motion tonight for the board to recommend that we move to EduStaff for our guest teachers and guest support staff for the 26-27 school year. And so this is a very big change for us. I have several slides just to educate Mr. Ledbetter as well as the community about the rationale for the recommendation. As always, when we make recommendations such as this, we ground ourselves in our mission and our values, as well as our board priorities. I have 2 highlighted there that I'm focusing on: retaining and recruiting high quality, collaborative, and diverse staff, as well as always looking to ensure the fiscal sustainability of the district. As Dr. Bergstrom mentioned, this was a professional sustainability task force that Ms. Bijak chaired along with myself in March of 2024, so almost 2 years ago now. And we were looking to address sustainability in terms of workload. When we do the school perception survey, that is a place where we know we have room to improve about our staff saying that their workload is not manageable. One of the recommendations that came from that task force, which was a member of staff and community, is that not having sufficient substitutes makes it very difficult for educators in terms of their workload, giving up their prep time to cover for one another, which means that they're missing their time to prep for themselves and contact families. And the strain on the main office staff of coming into work every morning with multiple vacancies that are not filled. And so this has really been a challenge for us since the pandemic. We have explored multiple strategies that I'll talk about in a moment, but I just want to share what our fill rates are. And I want to thank Julia Bavery in the HR department for closely monitoring this with me. If you look at last school year, we average about a 70% fill rate, and these are fill rates based on outside people who pick up our coverage. So these are not fill rates that talk about internal coverage when teachers or support staff cover for one another. So I don't want to leave the impression that our classrooms go unsupervised, because they don't, but our staff spend an incredible amount of time subbing and covering for one another, as well as our administrators. I don't think there's a day that I call an administrator that someone doesn't tell me, oh, so-and-so is subbing right now and isn't available. That is less than ideal, although I know they love it because they like to be in front of kids. And then our support staff, particularly in special education, you can see that our rates, average around 60%. So that is really, really hard. That's a strain on our case managers that often need to give up lunchtime and prep time and have, more kids that they're working with than is ideal. So just to put that in perspective, last year we spent about $75,000 in class coverage for our staff. That is not where we want to be. So this has been a priority for us as a team to try to address. And so we have tried, we've hired building subs. The board has allowed us to invest in that. That has been a huge impact maker, but it hasn't solved our problem. We tried adding a position to the HR department. I think that moved the needle a little bit, but haven't been able. That person had a personal family tragedy and ended up leaving us. And I learned a lot through that process. We have raised rates over the years. That hasn't made a dent. So I just really haven't found the magic to this problem. And I know how much of a strain it puts on our system. So this last fall, we meet as HR directors in Dane County, and several districts around us, Middleton, DeForest, and Monona Grove, had made the move to EduStaff. So what is EduStaff? EduStaff is a company who provides staffing to K-12 schools and other education entities for staff such as substitute teachers and support staff. So this is their main focus. This is what they do. They focus on recruitment, onboarding, and professional development for their employees. And so it got my attention last year because other districts were singing their praises, which has not always been the case when people have talked about contracting these positions. So I monitored it last year, and then this fall again, had conversations and saw their fill rates and thought, okay, I'm seeing fill rates that I can only dream of. I have to at least look at this. And so we have been looking at it. We did a work session with the last year's board, which I really greatly appreciate, which I think everyone was present except for Mr. Ledbetter, since he wasn't on the board yet. And so we also went out and talked to our staff about it to get their feedback, and I can share that tonight. So what our key details would be is that our daily guest teachers and support staff would be employed by EduStaff and not by the Oregon School District. Daily guest staff would still use Frontline. That's the program that they use to pick up jobs. It's the program that our teachers and support staff are familiar with. So EduStaff tells me it will look no different from the teacher side or the guest teacher and support staff side. One question that you'll see in the survey that I need to do a better job of educating our folks on is that teachers still can put their preferred subs into Frontline. Front office staff can still assign people. So we may have a sub, like let's say, for example, like Shannon will say, I only want a sub in John's classroom. That's where I'm comfortable with because I work in physics and that's the subject that I love. And so we can still do those assignments. Nothing changes from our end. It's the same system. really what changes is EduStaff is the employer. So the two key differences for us are that under the Affordable Care Act, we are required to offer health insurance if someone works a certain amount of hours a month, something we monitor very carefully because there are significant penalties if we fail to offer. So we would not have to worry about that. This year, only 3 of our daily subs qualified and all 3 declined the insurance. So I don't feel like that will be impactful for our daily subs. It also does save us money because we would no longer be paying WRS or FICA on those funds. We have a handful of folks that do sub for us who qualify for WRS, but all but one of them qualified because they worked for us or were in a long-term assignment, and WRS rules are we have to keep them on. So we don't have people other than one person who's working enough as a sub to qualify for WRS. From the guest teacher side, everything stays the same. We would still set the rates, so we would be in charge or in control of the wage rate. They do offer employee benefits. Now, they don't offer a comprehensive health plan, but they do offer a preventative plan, which is more than we offer. And they do offer a 401k, which our subs are not able to participate in. The one nice thing about them not being in WRS is that our retirees don't have to wait the 76-day waiting period. They can come back and sub right away, and we don't have to watch their hours. So they can sub as much as they want, and they don't jeopardize their annuity. So if Dr. Widensee wanted to come back and do a long-term stint, she would be able to do that in September. Yeah. So really what they tell us is the only thing that changes is the name on the paycheck. You know, I think that's an oversimplification, but we're trying to make that as true as possible if we were to move in this direction. So I just put in the slides for people watching at home that they do offer benefits for their employees. And one thing they really do focus on is onboarding and training because they have contracts with other school districts. So they can really focus and we can give information about what we want them to be trained on, but they can just give a lot more attention to those two things than we have been able to do. And that was something that was really attractive when we had our info session. So I just have those there. So how does this address the workload concerns, which is our goal? So we hope that staff will spend significantly less time covering for one another because our fill rates will go up. Our administrators and main office staff will spend significantly less time filling vacancies. It isn't unusual to wake up in the morning and have 7 unfilled positions in any given school. I'm not going to say that our fill rates will be 100%, so not all of that work will go away, but hopefully instead of 6 or 7, there'll be 1, and it won't be every day. It'll free up time in the HR department and with other DO staff because we don't have to spend that time on interviewing, doing all the hiring, doing the paperwork. We will still have to be involved in personnel issues because they're still going to be in our buildings. We don't have a lot of those, but you know we'll have to be a partnership with them to address concerns if someone doesn't show up for work or has an issue in the classroom. But that'll significantly decrease, and they will be able to spend that increased time in specialized recruitment efforts, which we're having to do in-house right now. So what are the fill rates? So you can see we picked 4 districts. Campbellsport is about our size. And so I know those numbers are really small, but if you can look at the highlighted yellow is before they went to EduStaff. And so you can see that most of their months hover at least at 90%, which that would be a game changer for us if we could get to 90%. DeForest, you can see, which I really look at because they went like us from an in-house system to going to EduStaff. When I talked to their HR director, they had very nice fill rates before they went to EduStaff. So when we explored that more, he said it was really to address the workload concerns. They are very leanly staffed, just like we are. And he said it was immediate, like day one, noticeable about less time in the main office and in the district office. And they were worried because they spent so much time recruiting substitutes that their fill rates might go down, but they've stayed consistent, if not a little bit higher. So that was very reassuring to hear. And then you'll see Middleton, and Middleton actually in this process increased or made, I guess, more liberal some of their leave policies. So even with that, they still hover. You can see this year their lowest fill rate is 94%, and they're a much bigger district. So that was encouraging to me. And then you can see Monona Grove, who's just a little bit smaller than us, but a similar type community, that they're still almost every month they're at 90%. So even at 80% would be hugely impactful for us. So when I see 4 districts around us having similar results, then I felt like this was something that we had to explore. So in terms of their EAs, you can see that, you know, they still don't have the fill rates quite that the educator staff do, the professional staff, but they're still above 80%, which again would be hugely impactful if we could get to 80, if not 90% for our support staff. As it really has a big impact on our students. Okay, so what does it cost? Their contract is based on the fill rates, so the higher our fill rates, the more expensive it will be. In working with them, we estimate about a $60,000 budget impact. Now, that doesn't account for any savings we would have in class coverage. Because we will still need teachers to cover at times if someone is like, I'm going to be gone 9th hour for a dental appointment, or I'm going to be, gone 6th hour because I need to go to my the senior moving on ceremony. We don't get subs for teachers are gone an hour or two in an external. We cover internally. So I know there will be some savings as our fill rates go up, but I thought just to be fair, I want to make sure that we have this in the budget at $60,000. I hope it's much less than that. But there is going to be, I hope, that larger impact that's hard to quantify on saving staff time, energy, workload, and stress on those mornings. So we had a listening session with staff. And then we did a survey. And so we had, as of this morning, there were 75 responses. So not where I would like it to be, but I appreciate the people who took the time to come and to respond to the survey. After we had the info session, we did record it, send that out to everybody with the slide deck and the survey so anybody could access the information if they weren't able to attend. In terms of what staff saw as the advantages was the increased fill rates and coverage, reduced workload, hopefully having a larger pool of folks, and eliminate that hour tracking of retirees that we have to do. So it was nice that they saw the same advantages that we did. In terms of the concern, echoed the things that we talked about. People are worried that our guest teachers want to work for us, that maybe they wouldn't sign up for EduStaff. Other districts have found that not to be the case, but there's always that concern. We know that people come and sub for us because they're connected to us and to our community. So always a concern. A big question about the cost. One question that was asked in the info session that I really appreciated is one of our guest subs who works a lot for us, said, well, if you have this to invest in EduStaff, why don't you raise the rates? And so my answer to that is we have done that over the years and we haven't moved the needle. And so I am hopeful that this will work. If it doesn't work, then there might be a time that I come back and say we have to try something else because we don't keep solutions if they're not working, right? So I did appreciate that question. Part of the hard part of area districts when we all share information with one another and their public records is as soon as one district goes up, if other districts can afford it, they go up and you're always chasing each other. So I'm hoping with a more targeted and dedicated staff that they'll be able to make an impact where I just haven't been able to make that impact. And then, other like quality and consistency, always a concern for our staff. We are very particular about who we put in front of our kids. And we have talked with EduStaff about that. We will not lose that particularity, right? So always a concern if you contract what the quality of people are in the classroom when you lose control over hiring. So again, the other districts that have used them have not reported that that has happened. So in terms of the reaction, I would say it's about, as with most surveys that we do, and the numbers are in the purple, but 36% of respondents encouraged the board to go to EduStaff, 23% discouraged, and 27% had no opinion. And then other people just had miscellaneous comments. So not a majority by any means, but more respondents than not did encourage the board to explore this. And then when we asked if they would consider working for EduStaff, which is one of my bigger data points, that more of them said they would than would not. So that was encouraging. If the board does approve the recommendation tonight, then we start working right away with EduStaff to recruit our current people who are subbing for us and encourage them to sign up for EduStaff. We send information, they will send information. Anyone who's working for us, as long as they have good evaluations, then they would automatically be hired by EduStaff. So it isn't as though it's a long, involved process. And they just have to come to a 15 to 30-minute meeting, depending on the amount of questions that they have, and they're automatically signed up. They just have to do the paperwork, and that can be virtual. So we're trying to make it very seamless. And as I said, educators can keep their preferred subs in frontline as long as they agree to work for EduStaff. They'll still be in there, and that'll work as it always does. So we would be looking in May and the summer to send communication. EduStaff would recruit, and then starting with the first day of school, little training beforehand, then they would be employed by EduStaff. So our main, I guess, impact would be felt in September. So in closing, if there are guest staff watching that we really want you to stay in our district, we absolutely could not do our mission without them. And so if the board approves this, we would start tomorrow in educating people and hoping that they'll work for EduStaff and still be in our buildings working with our amazing kids. So here's a potential motion if you're so inclined. And with that, I will stop for questions.
All right, thanks, Gina. Let's start with any clarifying questions. Nathan.
So I really appreciate all this information, Gina. Appreciate the information in the work session that we had earlier on this. And I've been thinking about this a lot, knowing this is coming to the board tonight. And I think, as you've so well articulated tonight, and I think have gone through all the right motions of understanding that we all want the outcomes, right, of the upswing of this. Maybe just a couple clarifying questions to the point here that we're at. So I know we're approving this or considering approving this for the 26-27 school year. There's no doubt a contract behind this. I assume that we have to enter into. Is that just a singular year contract with no, I mean, it's just a 1-year contract, not renewable?
Right, they would do a multi-year contract, but my request tonight is a 1-year contract so that we can monitor our fill rates and see how we do.
Can you get out of the contract, mid-year contract for anything other than breach, or is once you're in for the year, you're in for the year?
You're in for the year, and I would be comfortable with that because I think it'll take a little time to build momentum. So I would like to see what happens for a year and see how our fill rates are. If you see our fill rates, you can definitely see a pattern. Yep. That people, once it gets nice outside, our fill rates tend to go down. We have more absences just because more things are happening and the weather is nicer, and a lot of our subs are, happy to sub in the winter. But so I feel like I would want to give them a full year so I could get a full picture of the fill rates.
Oh, understood. That makes sense. Just curious, which I'm sure you have this all well covered given your role, but whose policies prevail, right? So as a contracted service, is the contract that you're signing with them enforce our employment policies carry with them when they work for us?
Yes, so anyone who is in our buildings but is subject to our board policies. Okay. So yes, and our subs right now are not subject to our handbook. They have our own sub handbook. So there's some things that apply that don't, but yes, it would be similar that they would still agree to a handbook that we would develop together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate that. That's always helpful. What would be the shift at the district office level for the HR specialist role that I think had been tasked with this? Do you have a plan for that?
So in terms of what'll replace it if this work goes away?
Correct.
The question. So a lot of the work that the bread and butter HR work that I have been doing would be transitioned to our new person.
Okay.
So that I would still be doing some of the more detailed and sophisticated HR work, but then that would increase the legal work that I'm able to do, which would also have some
I remember you
savings.
saying that before, so I appreciate that. As I've gone through this, and apologies for all the questions, you okay if I could just wrap up here quickly? I think the thing that I'm probably the most hesitant of and I'm really curious what my other board colleagues will say and think on this matter as well, is really just the cultural change. And I know you kind of alluded to that in there, but I don't know if that's something you can put in a slide or put metrics to. What kind of us versus them mentality and approach and separation carries out in this. I anecdotally asked my son, I say, hey, before I came to tonight's meeting, just not, it's a public agenda. And I said, hey, there's a subtopic on the meeting tonight. I said, how's your subs? And he's like, oh, they're all really great. He goes, we've got some building subs and they're awesome. And I'm like, well, there you go. I gave him zero context, zero background, and he says everything's great. And so I realized the numbers support something different, and there's a lot of work that gets moved underneath to make that happen. But I worry about the cultural split and the difference, and then the loss of the hiring practices. So I'm not sure where I stand yet on this. If I'm just going to be 100% honest and transparent with you and the rest of my board colleagues, I'm not an official yes yet. So I'm curious to hear what everybody else has to say for that. And if for that reason, it's mostly the cultural element that I'm mostly concerned about. But I appreciate all of the diligence on this and the right approach of critical thinking using data to support this. That's the kind of thinking we need to figure our solutions out, and I thank you for that. So
Yes, thank you. And I echo that hesitancy, absolutely.
I hear it. I know you do, Gina,
right?
because I know your heart and where you come from and where you're caring from, but you're trying to solve a prickly problem, right?
Yes, and I hope that when I reached out to a few of our guest subs that work a lot and asked about that, and I feel, cautiously optimistic that really it's how our subs feel when they get here, right? How they feel in the office, how they feel in the classroom, how respected they feel by our kids. And I know that's not going to change.
Correct.
Right? But yes, I am worried about that. Will they feel a lack of connection because we're not the employer anymore?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Heather.
Thank you, Gina. Echoing what Nathan said, since we've had a workshop on this, but appreciate the follow-up and especially the feedback from the staff meeting and survey and gathering that. Tonight is my start of my third term, so I feel very honored to begin that. Quite different than 6 years ago, April 2020, much different topics. Okay. But I don't say that to call myself out, but mostly because we have, after the COVID piece, was managed and whatnot. We've been talking about subs for a long time, and you've put in a ton of effort, with recruiting and wages and all of these things. And when I am in the school volunteering and principals are lovingly subbing for classes, right? That's not what you hope for, but you're glad that they are able to do it. I think about working at the top of your license and being able to have, principals, of course, if it's needed, they're doing what they're doing for the kids and for their team. But, if we can get these fill rates, that does seem appealing. My two questions are on the fill rate when we're going from, 58% to 90%. Can you just help me understand what that is in a human number?
Sure. So just to make the math really easy, let's pretend we're at Forest Edge.
Okay.
And we have 10 people out for the day who need a sub. And 8 of those are filled. That would be an 80% fill rate in Frontline.
Is that a typical day? I'm asking, not just for fake math, but is Forest Edge or any other school on any given day, is it 10 people out?
It's probably 20 because
20.
then there's probably 20, and it could be for various reasons, right? Like illness, FMLA, professional development.
I'm casting zero judgment on the
Right.
why or the number. I'm
No,
just
and
trying to
so-
get to, if we go from 60% to 85,
Right.
what does that mean across the district on any given day, what we're gaining in subs?
Yeah, I would say if you're looking at like a 90% fill rate on any given day, we probably have about 100 people in our building. Now, that's not all. I mean, an absence is an absence, right? So it might be a half day.
Sure.
It might not be all day. But I would say at any given day, we have 100 people working in the building. Not all day, every day, but
Okay. And so in that math, if it's 100, that's also a very easy round number. Going from 60% to 90%, we're gaining 30 more people a day, roughly. Do you know where I'm trying to get at? Yeah.
Yeah, just to get a impact on the quantity. Right. And different months are different. I mean, if it's influenza season, it's going to be higher. If it's September, it's much lower.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair estimate.
Good. And then my other question is piggybacking on the cultural piece, just to confirm, because your son, who was wise to talk about building subs are not going to be staffed by EduStaff, and building subs will be staffed by us per the slide, as well as long-term subs.
Yes, correct. So building staff will still be employed by us. I will say Middleton was able to reduce their building subs in making this move. That is not a recommendation that I'm coming with because they had multiple building subs per building, whereas we only have one. And I'm hoping that that will help with those last minute, you know, my child wakes up sick at 6:30 in the morning, what can I do, right?
Sure.
They're not able to go to childcare, they're sick. So, you know, maybe at some point we could reduce those positions, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with that in the next couple of years. I'd like to see how this goes should the board approve it, as well as our long-term subs. So when someone has a baby and is out for child leave and is in front of kids, you know, for an extended period of time, we would still be doing that interview process and they would be working for us. These are just the folks that fill in on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. Okay.
Not
and
a
then
long-term assignment.
Two other questions on the. I understand that bigger pool, right? EduStaff is going to have a bigger pool, which helps lead to bigger fill rates, but we're now competing, right, with more options, right? Unless I guess my question is, are current subs that we typically see only subbing for us, or do they also in frontline, or what are they in a different pool? I don't know if we can even know that, but I guess I'm wondering, obviously the proof is in the pudding, and the numbers for the other districts show fill rates increasing, so it must, you know.
Yeah, it depends really why they're subbing and what they want to do.
Sure.
So if you have a mid-year graduate that hasn't found their dream job and they just, you know, they may be subbing for us and Stoughton and McFarland because they're trying things out, trying other districts, right? Or you may have someone who is newly retired and lives in our community and only wants to sub for us. Or you might have somebody that only wants to sub in science high school classes or only wants to sub in elementary, right? I mean, if people want to sub in every area in any school, they could work every day.
Right.
But it really depends where their passion is and why they're subbing. Most of the subs that I have connections with only sub with us because they have a connection they want to give back to the Oregon School District, or their children are here and, you know, they're on our schedule. So they want to work in our buildings. But we are seeing more and more people that are doing this because maybe they want to be a teacher and they just want to see what it's like. And then they're in multiple districts to get a wide variety of experiences.
Okay. So, and then just to confirm that the people who are in good standing with us would be able to continue to sub with just us. It's just that they would be employed by EduStaff.
Correct.
Versus us, except for long-term subs and building subs.
Yes, and as long as they fill out the hiring paperwork, they're hired.
They're hired.
So we're trying
Great.
to make it very easy.
Love it. Okay, my last question, and you said this, so forgive me. The $60,000, and maybe this is Andy's question with the budget. This is coming from an ongoing budget or one time. Remind me of the one ongoing budget, so that if we do continue, we can have that in our budget. I'm off.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we do have that as continuing revenue. Once we made the health insurance switch, we had room for this this project.
Once we made the health insurance switch with the savings that we were able to.
Correct.
To the savings from the higher expenses, not overall savings. I don't want to cast any fake news. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
The decreased increase, I think, is what it was. Yep. Mary.
So I know you mentioned that we still set the rate for the subs. What happens if our rate is lower than, and we actually lose our guest teachers to other districts that are paying more? Do we know where we fall in the?
So we have we are I would say we're in the middle to lower end of our sub rates. The bigger districts pay more than we are. We pay more than the similar size or smaller districts around us, right? So I don't believe we have the budget at this point to raise our sub rates, right, if we do this, and I would like to see how EduStaff will do. I'm not saying that I wouldn't recommend maybe a $5 increase. I don't know what districts are gonna do for next year yet. We meet as HR directors and talk about that the third Thursday in May, where we all talk about what we're going to do with our sub rates. So, you know, I want to increase the fill rates, that is the goal, but I also don't, if we increase them tremendously, then I won't know, is it the increase of the tremendously that got the high fill rates, or is it EduStaff? And I don't know that we have the budget to increase them anyway. I try to focus on the districts around us because we tend not to have people who sub like in Middleton and Wanakee and sub here, right? They may sub here in Stoughton and McFarland and Verona. So most people tend to sub close to home. So we'll just have to monitor that and see. The only thing that I can go on is past history, right? That when we've raised it $5, that we haven't moved the needle on our fill rates. So that hasn't helped in the past. So I would say, you know, do we have the budget to increase it significantly? I think Andy did some rough numbers with Cara this morning that I appreciate. The $60,000, I think, is about a $3 an hour increase. And so we've done that before. I don't see that moving the needle. I'm hoping what moves the needle here is that they have dedicated people that this is all they do. If it doesn't move the needle, then I will come back and explore something else and keep trying, because I know how hard this is on our culture.
The 60,000, I know you said, is an estimate. And I'm wondering if, like, can you describe how it was estimated? Is it, for example, a 95% fill rate based on our current, like, 25, 26 absences? How was that 60K?
So I have to go back and look, but I believe they estimated that, looking at all of our data, on an 83% fill rate. And that was for professional staff and support staff. And when I talk about absences, I would, you know, that's looking at all the absences. That's not just a teacher absence on a daily basis. So I would love to have 90% fill rates. If that happens, it may be more. But again, I don't know where that class coverage decrease will be or how that will play out. So, but we both did a budget estimate and came to the same number. EduStaff did and my department did.
Any
But it could
chance
be- it
you
could
did
be
like
more.
a worse, like, you know, bookends? I always like
Well,
to do bookends. Like,
I
what's
know.
the low and what's the high? Any idea?
Well, that's why I'm hoping 60 is the high end, because I did no savings in class coverage, and I can't believe there will be zero savings, right? So I'm hoping 60 is the high end. And I think it would be a big stretch for them to go from 70% to 90% fill rates in 1 year. But I would love to see that happen. So I hope 60 is, I mean, I tend to budget worst case scenario, so I hope it is much less than that.
But if
I
it's
don't
much
see it
less
be-
than that, then we're not, right, we're not
Well-
increasing our fill rates very much?
Well, we have $75,000 in class coverage that, I mean, even if we cut that in half, right, which would be amazing. I mean, that could be a savings of $35,000. I mean, that is not insignificant. So like, my plan is 60,000 would be the biggest budget impact.
Okay.
And hopefully it's less.
Can I just clarify, jump in here? So Gina, could you expand on the class coverage dollar amount? So that's the amount that we pay we pay our existing teachers additional funds because they're putting in extra duty. Is that correct?
Yeah, so let's say I'm a 7th grade English teacher, right? And I have prep 7th hour, and the other English teacher is gone. So I give up my prep and I fill in for 7th hour. We pay $25 an hour for that. So anytime that happens, teachers fill out what's called a class coverage sheet. And so we pay those on paper timesheets. And so usually what happens is you have an English teacher out all day. So then, you know, Mary does 4th hour, Caleb does 5th hour, Andy does 6th hour, right? Like we look at our preps and people pick up those jobs. So if you think about how much people are covering for each other when we pay $25 and we paid $75,000, that's a lot of $25 timesheets that people are covering for one another. That happens mainly 7-12. At K-6, what we see are student services staff, instructional coaches, interventionists, you know, dividing up their time and filling in a classroom. And so we pay that time as well, because even though, you know, they control their own calendar, that's time they're in a classroom that they're not getting other work done. And so that's really where I think the workload conversation came in, right? That's time you're not prepping, you're not responding to families. You don't have time to meet with students if they're coming in for questions. So it just shows you how much we are covering for one another. So I did not budget any savings on that, because that will still happen, especially when people have just an hour or two appointments, or, you know, you have a sick child at 7 a.m. What can you do? We're all scrambling to cover that. I can't believe it won't go down at all, but I can't give you a realistic estimate of what that is. But that $60,000 has no savings in class coverage budgeted in that.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, and it all goes back to the reason why you're bringing this forward is to improve, going back to our professional sustainability task force, trying to improve the experience for all of our teachers. And I think that when teachers when they can actually do their class prep during their class prep, instead of, you know, feeling obligated to cover for their associates, it just improves the overall teacher experience. So I think, you know, rough math, like you said, if we're spending $70,000 today in that additional class coverage, even if we cut that in half down to $35,000, then the true cost of this is $25,000, not $60,000. So that's my rough math, but it, you know, could be more than 50%. Other clarifying questions, Caleb?
I'll just very quickly say that I think that the last point is really the key to all of this, because I have the same concerns that Nathan spoke to and others have spoken to as well. I think there's my big concern with education in general is, you know, I know this is not what it is, but it has a bit of a kind of a temp agency feel to it. And that's part of what's happened in the larger American sort of economy and workforce in the last couple of decades. And it's really been part of a larger deprofessionalization of a lot of fields. And so I'm a little worried about that. I'm also concerned about the fact that we have to resort to essentially what's ultimately a form of outsourcing to help us meet our instructional needs. It just seems like there's got to be a better system than outsourcing it to a company that is doing this for profit. But that's a whole nother discussion. I do have a couple of clarifying questions that I wanted to ask, and one of them is related to the people who will be working potentially for EduStaff. You know, I know you said that they offer benefits. Is there a minimum point at which you qualify for those benefits? Does anyone qualify? Is it something that, is that potentially, for me, I'm thinking, is that something that would make this potentially, being an EduStaff employee, potentially more attractive because the threshold to qualify for benefits would be less? Is it more? What is there in terms of a threshold?
You just have to work one time in order to qualify. Now, I wouldn't call it, they call it a preventative medical plan. It's a way for people to get preventative care at no cost, which is really important. I would not call it health insurance, right? But it's better than what we are able to offer people right now, because we don't have any type of a, separate preventative care only plan. And then they also can access their 401k, which for us, you have to be 0.5 or more to do the 403B or the 457. So there are some advantages that way, but in terms of it's better than not, but I don't know that I would call it a benefits package, right?
The 401k though, I mean, like if you work one day, you get a little something towards your 401k. Not that that
Yes.
would be much, but it is something.
That is their threshold.
Okay.
Yes.
My other question is, you mentioned the fact that so many other districts in our area have started utilizing EduStaff. Have you heard, or is there any indication of those districts, how happy they've been with, other than the fact that they're getting fill rates that are much higher, which is fantastic. That would make, I think, people happy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten a sense, I mean, in general, have people been pleased with EduStaff and the relationship that they've had with EduStaff in other districts?
Yes, they're very happy, which is why I was interested in exploring them in the first place. There's other companies around the state of Wisconsin that I haven't received the same type of feedback that I received, because I echo your concerns about outsourcing. So I don't bring this lightly. And if the board doesn't approve of it, I will not be heartbroken. That's okay. We will keep looking for solutions. But yes, I mean, to every HR director I have called personally to say, please just, offline, tell me about your experiences. What have been the pros and cons and what do you think? And they have all overwhelmingly recommended this company. Doesn't mean it'll be our experience, but that gives me comfort.
I'll just say one other thing on the way out is, and I think this is really important. We've talked about how much we value the culture of our district, and I think we had a lot of public speakers that also kind of spoke to that as well, about how strong our district is and what a good job we're doing. And I think that I want us to make sure that if we do utilize EduStaff, that we continue to hold to that expectation. Just because it's EduStaff, I don't want anything in terms of our expectations and those kinds of things to change. And I think we can do that. I just want to make sure that that's first and foremost if we do go this direction, and that we continue to make sure that people feel that they're valued and that the roles that they perform in our district are essential. We need guest teachers because they play a vital role in educating our kids, and I just want to make sure that they feel that we still really value them as a district.
Gina, one of the comments in the admin, going back to the survey, is that they're concerned about the early morning coverage, and I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I know clearly right now we're having to reach out to people we know and call, and they're under a hectic kind of strain to try and get that fixed. What does that look like with EduStaff? Does that change, or is that still on us?
I would say, to me, ultimately the responsibility for filling vacancies is us, right? I mean, it's our kids, our classrooms, and so what EduStaff does, so they have a manager that is assigned to us. So they have someone who will monitor frontline for the absences and the fills. Right now, mainly the administrators and the admin assistants in the main office do that. I monitor them as well, just district-wide to see trends. But they're monitoring on a day-to-day basis. So I guarantee you right now, the administrators are watching the board meeting and they're in frontline seeing what does tomorrow look like. What's covered, what's not covered, what do we need to do, right? So what you hope tonight by 8 o'clock is everything is covered and you feel good. You wake up at 5 in the morning. I guarantee you one of the first things all our administrators do is jump on frontline to see who got sick in the middle of the night, which absences are coming in. So that's when they talk about the hectic mornings. A lot of our lead admin assistants come in at 7, and that's the first thing that they do. Where do we have vacancies? And they get on the phone. I know Caleb subs for us all the time. The system automatically calls people, but sometimes it just takes that extra call, right? Hey, Caleb, really in a bind today. Can you please, any way you can come in, 2 hours, 3 hours? I mean, it's a tremendous amount of stress every morning. So I hope EduStaff will help that twofold. One is you won't have so many absence, they'll be filled faster, so you won't have so many to worry about. But then what EduStaff tells me is they have that manager who's also looking in the morning. And so they will get on the phone as well, right? but it's going to take a little bit for them to develop that relationship. And so I would say they have been very candid that those last minute call-ins are harder for them to fill as well. So I wanted to be honest with our administrators and office staff that it's not going to go from all of your workload to zero, right? And because ultimately it's our responsibility to make sure that classrooms have a qualified person with our kids. So that will still fall on their plates, and you'll see that in the feedback, and I understand that. It isn't that EduStaff won't be helping them, right? But at the end of the day, we have to get those positions filled, or if we can't, then we start asking our internal staff, can you cover today? Who's available to cover today? So that work will still be there.
Okay. And then, so we had our workshop about this on the 9th. And then you met with staff. When did you meet with staff?
Oh, I can look at my calendar, but I think it was April 15th, 14th or 15th. April 15th, we had an info session and invited everyone, a virtual info session, and then we recorded that and sent it out.
And when were they invited?
They would have been invited the day after our work session.
So from the 10th to the 15th?
Yes, I believe that's right, because I don't know if I have to look. I might have invited them. I didn't want to invite them until we had sent notice to the board. So I think I invited them Friday, and then we put it in the weekly.
Okay.
And then I can look if that's important.
And how well attended was it?
It was not as well attended as I wanted it to be. We probably had about 30 people, but that's not atypical of an info session. What's more important to me is if people watch it later.
Okay. I have a little concern with the fact that it was not well attended. We only got 75 responses back on the survey. And as many of my colleagues have mentioned, our culture is not that we ignore that kind of stuff. I don't know that I can support it tonight. I think that there's some very big positives about EduStaff, and I think that it might be something that we could do moving forward. But I really feel like our team, meaning our broader team, is not on board. It's what I feel.
I'm not sure what you mean by broader team, just to give me guidance on
Staff,
next steps?
teachers, people that would have given us input. I don't feel like we have done our due diligence that we do with everything else that we do in this board of covering things. You may have talked to us about it, and I appreciate that. But I feel like we haven't brought our teachers and our guest teachers and our educational assistants on board as well as I think that we should.
And I would respectfully push back on that a little bit. I don't feel that people aren't on board. I do agree, and I put that in the purple, that it's not, I wouldn't say I feel comfortable saying it's representative of how everyone feels. I don't know how to make things available to people when there's so many demands on everyone's time. So I do the best I can with recording, sending out information, making personal phone calls to people, but I'm always open on better ways to do things. But I wouldn't say that people aren't on board. I don't know that I have the data to say that people fully support or don't support one way or the other, and I feel like I've been really open about that.
Okay, then maybe I misspoke. Maybe it's not that people aren't on board, but we don't have the information, and I feel like that we don't do that as a board going forward without due diligence getting that information.
And I am happy to get whatever information the board would like. So I would love to have more clarity because I want to meet your need for that information. So please let me know.
You mentioned that all the HR directors that you've talked to have had really positive things to say about EduStaff. Have they all had the increase in filled or in like daily positions filled? Or like I know you've mentioned some folks in the packet, and there are a couple other districts in the presentation, and so I just was wondering, has everybody seen this increase?
Yes, everyone has seen an increase, although some districts more than others, right? And some of the districts that I talked to, they were contracting with other companies and didn't contract with them and then moved to EduStaff. So like Middleton had a different company and then moved companies. So that's a lot different culturally than doing like DeForest and We May Do is going from in-house to the first contracting entity, if that makes sense. But yes, everyone has experienced increased fill rates, although some bigger fill rate than others, if that makes sense.
Just one more clarifying question. Can you explain to me how the percentages work? Because I know in the survey there was a lot of concern about morning fill rates. You spoke to that as well. If, let's say, a teacher calls in for the day, right, and is not able to come for every period. Let's say the periods 1 and 2 wind up not being covered by a sub, but the rest of the day is covered. Is that a fill or is that a not fill?
Yeah, so thank you. So if there's a vacancy that isn't filled through Frontline, that is considered unfilled. So I don't want people to think that in any given day, like we have 40% of things that aren't filled. They're filled by internal staff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure. So the fill rates that we're looking at are just the things that are filled through Frontline. Did I answer your question? I feel like I didn't.
Almost.
Okay.
So, sorry. And my understanding, like, again, from the survey and from what you said, is that especially mobilizing somebody to come in for the first period or first 2 periods or whatever is more of a challenge, and that getting someone to come in for the remainder is easier because they have more lead time.
Okay.
Is that clear so far?
I think that can happen, yes.
All right. So then if, for example, we have somebody who can come in, but they can't come in until period 3.
Okay. So
is that a fill?
It would
or
be
is
a partial fill.
Right.
Right. It wouldn't be a 100% fill. It'd be a partial fill.
And so that's reflected in the rates that we're
Yes.
talking about as well. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Would entertain a motion.
Well, yeah, I'll make the motion because we can continue discussion afterwards, right?
Yep.
Great. So I will make the motion.
It's right there on the screen.
Yeah, right. Monday nights, right? I move to approve the district contracting with EduStaff for daily guest teachers and guest support staff for the 26-27 school year.
All right. Motion by Heather. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Bush. Any further discussion?
Apologies if I missed it, but Gina, do you know where the principals stand on this as well?
So I
'Cause
would.
it sounds like, and this
yeah.
is new information to me, that they're the ones that are running all of, or maybe not the principal by name, but somebody on their lead team is the one that's actually running a lot of the daily management of the lists and the vacancies, right?
Yeah, I would say the principals are largely supportive because of the workload strain that it puts on them, right? So, yes, they're largely
Thank you.
supportive.
No, that's, Thank you.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
So I have reservations that I think everyone else has. I think at this point I'm a yes vote on this, and I want to explain why, because I think it's something we need to consider. When you think about the trade-off in terms of the workload impact, and I think in terms of what has to happen in the morning when there are absences and they have to be filled, and then teachers giving up their prep times and the $79,000 that we spend on class coverage costs, that part of this issue, I think, is the one that this potentially has a chance to really address. And I think that's what matters more than anything else. I think the other thing that gives me I feel better about it is that we're essentially doing this on a 1-year contract. If it works, we can continue doing it. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. And the last thing that I'll say, and I want to just reemphasize the whole workload thing, but in terms of if we had to have someone in-house on our staff, an administrator who did just this, we would be fortunate to have that person only cost $60,000. I sat here and thought about that, and I said, well, in that case, right, that financially, maybe this does make sense from that perspective. And again, I think the biggest thing for me is just the workload for everybody in the buildings, the administrators, the support staff, the teachers. If we can find a way to give them back their prep times, or to give them back a bit of the time that they can be working with students or doing the kinds of things that they're supposed to be doing in buildings, rather than filling for teachers who can't be there, that's a big win for me. And that's why I feel like I'm more on the support side than the opposed side at this time. Thanks.
I just wanted to add in, I was going to say something similar on why I'm a yes, echoing all some of the reservations that you've also shared. It's because it's for 1 year, right? And I think you have exhausted possibilities, and I just don't see another option. And so there is a risk with it, right? But I think it's a limited risk, given that we are doing this for a year and that you have to come back for year 2. So I hope a year from now we're like, well, that was the best decision ever. And we keep it moving, and we've saved $40,000 or more from the class coverage. But if it wasn't the home run that we're looking for, I also think that we will be okay, and we will be able to come out of it and find other solutions. So it's a lower risk position for me, which is why I made the motion.
All right, we need to move towards a vote. Mary, and then Leslie.
So this is one that I have really struggled with. And I know we as a board really strongly encouraged the hiring of the retention and recruitment hire. And I know that individual that position was filled, and then unfortunately they left. I know you mentioned that they moved the needle a little bit in their term here, and then the position was open for a while and recently filled. And so I struggle with making this decision now, because I'd really love to have that individual have the opportunity to actually, move the needle more than just a little bit. Because, I know that, at least I can speak only for myself, but when we were really encouraging you guys to hire that position, that this was one of the big needs, right? We all want to support our educators, and yeah, I mean, it's a huge finding out of the professional sustainability task force. I struggle with making this decision now for that reason. I also struggle with the $60,000, and I mean, we're always throwing a dartboard, right, at the numbers, but the variability in the cost, if we do get a 90%, how much are we looking at? And then I'm anxious over the loss of control over the hiring, and the loss of the community feel, the loss of culture. So I'm definitely struggling with this decision right now.
Yeah, and I understand that. In terms of the position that we filled, we went in a different direction as a department, and I hired an HR benefits specialist because that's the needs that we have. One of the barriers to hiring a recruiting specialist is people want to be remote. And so that I do not feel comfortable hiring someone remote. Maybe that's something I need to be pushed on. But of the 60-some people, applicants, and after sending, clarification and screening and all of that, only 4 people were interested in being on site. So that is something I'll just have to wrestle with. If we don't go in that direction, then that probably is where I would go to look at, is there someone part-time with that skill set that can help us? It just feels strange to me to recruit for a culture and be fully remote. But that's the culture of the recruitment world that I learned pretty quickly. So not the culture of school districts. And to answer Ms. Wright's question, and you're right, it's not the typical amount of notice that we give people. We sent out the invite on April 9th with a reminder on April 14th and had the info session on the 15th.
Did you have something, Leslie? Go ahead.
Gina, I had 2 quick follow-ups. Do you know where the OEA stands on this?
No, I do not. Angela and Laura were at the info session, and so I know they filled out the survey, but they haven't been in contact with me either way to say they love it or they hate it.
Okay.
So I'm
And then-
guessing they're grappling with the same feelings that we are, because
Yeah.
if they really hated it, I know I would have heard from them. So
That's fair. And then the last question I have for you is, why tonight? What's the timing for tonight? Because I know you said earlier that like if we approve it tonight, then tomorrow we go into education mode. But why are we doing this right now?
So in talking with EduStaff, the sooner that they can start recruiting our current guest subs, the better. If people want more time, and I would love feedback tonight or later as to what you want me to bring to the May meeting. We could do it at the May meeting. That, from their perspective, would be the last opportunity because they really want to work with us to recruit before school's out so that we don't lose that connection to the subs that currently work for us. And I'll also need it to plan for the summer about what my department looks like. So if people want more time to think about that, I absolutely respect it. I know it's a big decision, but I would ask the board to make a decision by the next meeting. That was their absolute cutoff, and this just had a shorter agenda, so we felt like we should bring it forward tonight with that cushion that if people needed more time, we had a little cushion.
Okay, so I'll weigh in. I'm a supporter of this. I think this is something we've talked about for a long time, originated, even before the Professional Sustainability Task Force, and this is, I believe, what we need to do or try to improve the experience for, not only our professionals, but for our students as well. So I'll be a supporter. With that, Katie, please call the roll.
Ms. Garrison? Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Ledbetter?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel? Dr. Lakuta? Ms. Wright?
I'm having a really hard time with this, and I'm only because I don't feel like we've gone about this the correct way with our employees. I'm going to say no.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 5-2. All right, thank you. Now we will move into our informational items. Committee reports. We're going to skip committee reports. Nothing has changed from our last meeting, and now we have new committees. So we will move to our Spanish immersion kindergarten proposal. And Dr. Bergstrom, I believe you're going to
That is correct. Thank you, everybody. And for all the families who stayed, thank you. I know it was a bit of a wait. So as you heard tonight, Mariposa Learning Center is a well-regarded community asset. They're the embodiment not just of the love of learning, but also the value of bilingualism. And I think we definitely heard that loud and clear. So this is what led Patty and Jared Wooldridge to propose a kindergarten Spanish immersion program to the OSD. And initially they proposed it as a non-instrumentality charter, but as we learned more, we also spoke a little bit about the value of just calling it a pilot. So what they proposed is that they would offer a class for up to 25 students. It would be taught by Mariposa staff, but the costs would be shared by the OSD and Mariposa, and that it would give us a year to say, do we like this? Do we want to keep it? Do we want to expand it to other grades? Is this something that we want to continue doing? So they brought it to us in that spirit, like this is something we'd really love to see happen. They made a very generous proposal related to it, and they wanted to have us pilot it to see where it could go and how it could grow. So that's when we came back as a team, meaning we, the administrative team, and they brought it, and we brought it to the board via the vision committee and then a work session to talk about the proposal and to talk about what are the key considerations for us as a district within the context of this particular proposal. So we know that there's a considerable amount of interest that was expressed in beautiful ways tonight related to families at Mariposa. But we also want to talk about the broader community. How many other families are interested in this? How big is the need for this within our community? Specifically because we know that there are other childcare centers that are also Spanish immersion. So we could have a very broad interest, and we really need to know and understand what that interest is. We also spent quite a bit of time talking about DPI requirements, because what would the requirements be for the Spanish immersion kindergarten teachers, and what additional schooling and training would be necessary for them to meet these DPI requirements. And Jared and Patty have even spoken about helping to pay for employees to get these certifications or licenses. It would take a bit. They would have to start on an emergency. And then there's also the issue that we uncovered as we began to dig and talk and learn more, and that was that in kindergarten we also have to have certified instructors in art, general music, and physical education. So that's something, those are instructions areas that are required by DPI, and we would have to have them offered in this pilot program also. And since the pilot program would be located at Mariposa and they have a gorgeous art studio, we would still need to have lessons that were developed by our licensed educators and delivered there. So there was a few barriers with that. In addition to the professional development that would be really important for any kindergarten teacher to have related to foundational literacy. We also spoke a little bit about the budgetary impact, because even though the partnership offer from Mariposa was very generous, there's still a significant budgetary impact to a pilot program, because we wouldn't be reducing our staff, we would simply be adding the pilot. So we knew we had to plan for that. We also spent a lot of time talking about Spanish immersion programming as an attraction for families to either stay in or move to the Oregon School District. And I want to make a key distinction here too, is that other area school districts have dual language immersion programming, which is programming for heritage Spanish speakers and native English speakers at about a 50-50 percentage in each classroom. And we knew that our numbers of heritage Spanish speakers are not yet to that point where we could offer a dual language program, which is really excellent programming that we aspire to. We just need to grow our numbers a little bit more before we can get there. So we started talking about Spanish immersion, which is actually pretty unique. There aren't other places that do Spanish immersion other than Nuestro Mundo in Madison, and Verona does a Chinese immersion language program. So if we were to be able to offer this in the future, I think it could be quite a marketable feature for our school district, and would offer a really terrific roadmap to dual language immersion programming in the future when our numbers allow that to happen in alignment with best practice. And then we spoke a lot about the fact that we really need to consider a timeline that allows for thoughtful and inclusive planning, because as a part of who we are and how we operate as a district is that we bring in a lot of people We make sure that a lot of input is included, a lot of feedback is integrated. We often have task forces or committees that investigate things and they make recommendations to the board. So as we were considering the amazing proposal from Mariposa and some of the considerations that are key to us as a school district, we really came up with some next steps that we as an administrative team would propose. These considerations that were shared with the administrative team, the school board, et cetera, keeping that in mind, the administrative team would like to further explore the Spanish immersion programming proposal and actually bring a recommendation to the board in the future related to the fall of 2027 potentially. So we would want to do a survey related to how much community interest is it, so we know really how big of a program might we want to consider offering in the future. We want to establish a committee that brings in all of those voices that we spoke about so that we can feel like we really did things in the way that our community is used to when we take on a large and important project. And then in order for the board to be able to make a well-informed decision, not just about a Spanish immersion, but next year and staffing and budget, I think it would be really important for the committee to present findings to the board in around December so that the board has all of that information and has that in mind when they're thinking about staffing, which really comes just the next month after that. So what we need is a really thoughtful timeline, an inclusive committee that's based on an assessment of community needs and interests. And we certainly got an excellent representation of that this evening. And I really appreciate it because I think it helps me as somebody who is in administration in the district understand that we're moving in the right direction when we explore Spanish immersion, because I think the interest is there. And we put it as a discussion item so that if anybody wanted to say anything about that, they're certainly welcome to if you'd like to make comments. Otherwise, this is something that the administrative team will continue to pursue and bring a recommendation at a later date.
All right, so we'll open it up for discussion. Who would like to start? Mary, you can go first.
Yeah, I obviously during our previous discussions, I think it's a marvelous direction for us to head in. And I think one of the biggest hurdles that I heard in all of our conversations was around the need for example, the music teachers, having drums, having, all of that equipment. And I guess I wonder how, how we will fund those types of things, how we will get the additional equipment, and I'm always worried about the finances, right?
So I really love everything we heard, all the support, all the sessions that we've heard on all the, the progressive thoughts and ideas, and certainly the community need. And as I think about this with a little bit more of a longer term view and what's the art of the possible on this, and I think about the financial considerations you mentioned, to support something is also to sacrifice. So if we're going to invest in something, we have to look for other ways that we're going to make those trade-offs, right? That we do this in our home budgets, we do this in our workplaces, this is nothing new. And so as we think about helping to sharpen the charge for the committee that's going to be going about this work, I jotted down 2 outcomes that I would love to see the committee focus their efforts on. One is, how do we really take a look at immersion language across the entire district for a longer term plan, so that we're not just solving for the proposal for the year ahead, but that we're looking at it longitudinally, long-term view, and what that would look like on a multi-year phased approach if we were to implement. And I think what I would then look at is, how are we repurposing existing language offerings? Do we use less languages? Are those languages still popular? Does the community and the task force recommend less languages for better immersion? And I really think you had even mentioned, Leslie, I believe at one of our workshops, some of the statistics were showing that some of those elementary, like second, third grade Spanish offerings maybe weren't as in vogue anymore or something, or as effective as maybe they used to be. No judgment, I'm just recalling some facts. And so what does this committee's charge really look at to help reshape and reform this? I think might be in the best interest of recommendations that I think would really help the board, help the community, help the district, and ultimately our kiddos. Thank you.
Yep. Echoing what fellow board members have said, when Patty and Jared came in March, there's a lot of excitement and obviously passion and love for this topic, not only from the people here tonight, but from board members, right? March was last month, so that's not a long, the passion continues, but it hasn't been a long time. We've done a lot of work on it. We had another, out of order, will you visioning committee meeting to talk about this, and the excitement is still there. I want people who are here tonight and people who are watching at home to know, similar to the conversation that we had that Leslie mentioned about EduStaff, is the Oregon School District has a wonderful tradition of bringing our community and our parents along for the journey, and that is so important. And this is such a huge decision. You saw it last year with Late Start. You see it every year, even with a school district calendar. And so I think that is one of the things that, while things may take longer, I'm really proud of our tradition of maintaining that community feel and bringing people along with when we're doing when we're looking at big decisions such as this. I really appreciate the long-term view of it and what could it be, right? Because I think the original proposal is kindergarten, and not to say that it's just kindergarten, right? It's just, what does that mean then as we continue this? What does that look like? And so I think the other thing is I really appreciate hearing more and more about the high quality of Mariposa. I drive by it almost every day on the way to Forest Edge, but and knew it was wonderful. But I just think it's such a great thing, and the district is looking at this in a way to match that and making sure that both sides are really doing high quality work. And then Dr. Bergstrom, I was really appreciative of your comments, because one of the questions that came to my mind was, wait, are other districts doing a Spanish immersion as we're talking about it? But I'm really grateful that you were clarifying the heritage immersion, which is when we have those numbers, we are able to do it. It's not something that we can flip a switch before those numbers are there. So I was grateful, because I was trying to rack my brain about what other districts might be doing something like what we're talking about, which is great that to be on the forefront, right? Not no harm in that. And then the last piece is just the budget impact. You hear us talking about, right, $60,000. We hear, we've talked about a music position for $25,000. And so it's not that we can't do things that cost money. It's just that there isn't an endless pot of it. And so I really appreciate Nathan's thought about, if that, then what, how do we get there? So that is, there's nothing finite about anything I'm saying, but just kind of where my head is at. But my heart and my head are both excited about this potential. And I'm really excited that there are some next steps that will formalize what data that we're seeing and what input that we're seeing, and that the committee would be presenting in December, which, summer goes by like that, and then it's Christmas or holidays. And so I'm excited that this is a short-term movement on something that is a long-term vision.
I'd just like to add on to Heather's comment, back to my point as well. We're also not the 7 experts that know all this as well as we can. That's why doing these things together with folks that do know how to help shape and guide for the long term is more important for the broader success, rather than us making emotional decisions on short term. We're really looking at long-term strategies for our collective success. So just building onto your points for speed. Thank you.
Matt, go ahead.
Something that I think is really exciting is how much passion there is that people have for this. One question that I have as well is, like, I don't want to see this as like, oh, we can, like, this will just be kindergarten, because then that feeds into, the budget questions, and this might well be already baked into what that committee is going to be looking at. But I mean, what does it look like for kids doing this to then, like our portrait of a graduate, and like you went through our immersion program, like what does that look like? But then that feeds into these budget questions, because then it's not just kindergarten that you have to have those additional resources for. I mean, there's really exciting things, and hearing about how that opens up doors for people, and that opens up doors for people who move to our community as well. Like it's not just us going out, and it's folks coming in, but yeah, I'm really curious to hear beyond kindergarten.
Caleb?
I'm very supportive of this idea, and I think that in general, I think we all are very supportive. The concerns that we've had in our discussions have been stuff that many have already spoken to, and that's a lot to do with the budget. We just had a meeting about healthcare costs, right? And the healthcare costs next year going up 7.9%, right? Is that right? Which was several $100,000 that we have to come up with. And this is a recurring point of discussion that we have, I think, every board meeting. But we are increasingly, our budget is increasingly tight. And I think we have to really think about how we can do this the right way, and also in a responsible way financially. I know we can do it. It's just that there are a lot of questions that have to be answered, and I think we will figure it out. But we do not have unlimited resources, and we have to figure out what we can do with the resources that we have. I think what Nathan said about the trade-offs we have to think about at this point in time, unless the state really steps up and puts more into funding for public education. That's the reality. And I think that's something else that anyone listening at home and should also keep in mind is that, the state has a budget surplus right now that they're just sitting on. And some of the discussions have been about using some of that money for education. If we had just a little bit more money, I know we talk about special education a lot, that just a little bit more money that in those areas would potentially give us the ability to pursue these kind of programs. But we have to really think about that because our budget is increasingly tight and constrained.
Dr. Bergstrom, I'm just wondering about our timing, looking at, you say the committee presenting its findings in December. Does that then 9 months give enough time to start and create what we need to create? Or do we need to scrunch up that December, or where are we at with things? Because I think this is a wonderful idea. I really support it wholeheartedly. Honestly wanted to do the other way, but we need to actually put things in the right order for our district and do things the way that we do as a culture, as I spoke about earlier. And I want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves a rough timeline to squeeze it in, and then there'll be concerns next year with well, we can't do this in this amount of time, and I don't want to see that. I'd also, as my second backup on this, is I'm wondering if when we send out the community interest, or maybe you have this information and I just don't know about it, because it's kind of dance flurry, is what does our world language program look like at kindergarten level right now, and is there a way that can be adjusted based on what we're hearing from our community after we get these responses back?
Okay. I'll answer the last question first, and that is our currently the allocation we have for world language at the elementary level. If we were to want to increase the amount of exposure students have to world language class, it would require more FTE. So there would be definitely an expense if that was the direction that we wanted to go. And there's lots of amazing arguments for more exposure. So I'm not saying that isn't how we could go. But to Nathan's point, there may be an opportunity to think about what trade-offs do we have, right? So that's something that the committee would explore. I put in December of 26, which is actually quite audacious of me considering the fact that I'm not going to be here. But I put Maybe I will. But I put it in there because it's really the last possible date I feel that the board could make a decision for the fall of 27 and have all of the pieces fall into place in a way that would make everybody on the board feel comfortable. So of course it could be earlier, but I think that if we were able to present to the board by the first committee meeting or first meeting in December, I think that everybody from all of the supporters at Mariposa to the board to the administrative team, I think people could feel solid about a plan that would give us an entire semester to recruit interested families, and I do not think we'd have a hard time.
If I can offer on that, I think something I might encourage, which I think you guys have historically done very well with, is a really tight scope on the effort for that group. 3 questions, 3 problem statements, not a lot of discussing and dialoguing. And you guys know the issue from the challenges and the topics and the opportunity. Frame it well, keep it tight, stay on track, and I think you'd be fine in the timeline.
I know Leslie inspired me. No, Caleb inspired me because I try not to every time talk about special education, but we should definitely just throw that number out there, especially because so many people are listening. So Andy, $5 or $8 million that if we were fully funded for special education, no, not even fully funded. If we went from our current percentage to what the legislature offered, what would that do to our budget in 1 year? No, that's vouchers. That was my next thing. Special education and vouchers both take money, either takes money out of the district or we are not getting fully funded from the government. So I am here for all the passion for all the education, but I just want to step on my soapbox for a second and say that passion can continue by reaching out to your legislatures to ask them to fully fund the school district, because we could be having a lot different conversations about things like this with fully funded special education and or less money going out the door for private school vouchers. How about that? I'll put you off the hook for numbers and I'll just say that as a blanket statement.
Okay, so great comments by board members. I won't repeat all of them, but for me personally, I see tremendous value in a language immersion program and expanding what we do and reevaluating other things that we do. I agree. I think that we should look at this as what's the best practice for the entire district. So I think the proposal to work through a committee and deliver a recommendation back to the board at the end of the year is a great next step. And mainly because I just want this to have the maximum impact that's possible. And I think, as was stated, it should be more than, we should be looking at more than kindergarten and be looking at how can we really, truly immerse our students in this option. And lastly, I want to thank Patty and Jared for, number one, for the incredible care that you take of students in our district in your facility. And secondly, for just being tremendous partners to the district and your willingness that you brought this proposal to us and your willingness to work with us. I can't thank you enough. And I want to come and tour your facility someday because I've heard such wonderful things. I just want to go and see it. So looking forward to being able to continue to partner with you in the future. And again, I just really want to thank you for your dedication to the students and our kids. So, all right, with that, we will move on to our informational items. And Dr. Bergstrom, you can run us through all 4 of those.
Here we go. I'm gonna move a little forward because everybody was so excited that I think I want to make sure that we talk about this a little bit, because the School Administrators Alliance had some of this information on their website, and I think it's really important for us to take any opportunity possible to put it out to people who are listening. And here's what the facts are. Special education costs in Wisconsin have increased by nearly $1 billion. And the state has only provided an additional $250 million to support our students. So this leaves schools in Wisconsin covering $750 million in unreimbursed mandated costs. And I think those are really powerful numbers. And it's something that we need to continue to put out in front of people because this is not optional. These are things that are required for our students to be successful. And yet you see the discrepancy between the increase in costs and the increase in reimbursement. So what we would always ask is what we ask anytime we have the opportunity. We encourage people to reach out to their legislators and to talk about, or ask them to support using surplus funds to meet at least the promised 42 and 45% reimbursement rate. Because while that certainly isn't adequate, it would at least allow them to meet their promise. And it provides certainty for budgets, which of course allows us to do some of the amazing things that we've been talking about this evening if we actually had true budgetary certainty related to what it costs to ensure our kids have the very basic mandated needs covered. And then it also reduces pressure on local taxpayers, because we know how much of a struggle it is and how many of the school districts around the state have resorted, including us, to operational referendums in order to maintain the level of service that they currently have, let alone do amazing things like adding Spanish immersion programming. So this is a really, I think, apropos legislative update, considering all of the topics that have been discussed this evening.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
First, thank you. I love seeing the specific details on this slide, but I think the other conceptual component that is not here is that the state actually funds special education in private schools to 90%. So there's a huge disconnect that happens on our state level.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that extra bit of information. And now I'll move to the superintendent's report. So we celebrated National Library Week last week. So many thanks to the amazing library media specialists and the library educational assistants. And when you look through all of the people on that screen, some of these wonderful people are new to our team and some have been with us for a very long time. And all together, they make our libraries places of real joy, and we're grateful for them. And then honoring our administrative assistants. We all know that they do the work that supports everything that happens within our schools. We're so lucky to have them. They make everything go smoothly and efficiently, and also creating a really kind and nurturing environment. If you've ever been inside a school office, you know that the people, and I would say the district office too, who are first contact with the community, with the students, with the parents, they have amazing hearts and they do their work with such love. We're grateful for them. Now, inclusive hiring insights. This is really interesting. OSD educator Elisa Reed recently presented information to the Oregon Chamber about the Member Connect program. During the program, Elisa shared insights and important benefits of hiring individuals with different abilities, such as increased workplace diversity and high retention rates. Employers who are interested in learning more about opportunities for inclusive hiring are encouraged to contact Elisa at emreed@oregonsd.net. We have an event next week for incoming kindergarten families. They're hosting an informational meeting for families of incoming kindergartners. This is the 26-27 school year. And it's Monday, May 4th from 6 to 7 in the Oregon Performing Arts Center. So that's here at the high school. You get to meet elementary principals and learn about kindergarten in the OSD, including transportation, school meals, and more. And free childcare is available for children 3 and up. And you can find more information and the childcare sign up on our website calendar, OregonSD.org. Prairie View had a mystery reader. A special surprise brought excitement to Miss Jansen's third grade classroom at Prairie View Elementary. Students welcomed a mystery reader, one of their parents, who shared a read aloud in Spanish alongside multilingual teacher Mrs. Hessimer. It was a great opportunity for students to hear the language in a new way and see it come to life. So many thanks to our guest reader for making this memorable experience. And speaking of memorable experiences, Prairie View has been having a blast at their all-school assemblies over the past few months. In March, students and staff competed in our 4th annual rock, paper, scissors contest, with Miss Denore taking the win and facing off against Pete, the Prairie View Panther. Staff also brought the legend of the rock, paper, scissors to life, which students loved. Last Friday's April assembly brought another round of excitement. A few teachers recorded themselves reading a book while in costume, and students had to guess who was behind each disguise. It sort of sounds like the Mystery Singer or whatever the Masked Singer show. The big reveal at the assembly had everybody cheering. And a huge congratulations to our talented Netherwood Knoll Elementary 3rd and 4th grade art students who participated in the Forward Madison and Rally Madison soccer team flag design contest. With over 4,000 students across Dane County submitting designs, we are incredibly proud to celebrate 2 of our own. So Maddie Klein, she had the top one, and Graham Schnelly had the bottom. Their creative flags were selected, and they will be honored in a very special way by walking onto the field with their flags at Forward Madison and Rally Madison home games this May. Pretty cool stuff. Cool stuff. This was last week, I think, that, or the week before even, that I was able to be one of the many, many judges for the Forest Edge STEAM Fair. Rainbows, electrical currents, lightning, birds. I had a make-your-own ice cream. It was all really amazing stuff that kids explored during the recent STEAM Fair. STEAM is a learning approach that uses science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics as access points to guide student inquiry. It was a really amazing display of learning. Congratulations, Forest Edge, on a fantastic event. RCI celebrated Earth Day. Ms. Kramer's 5th grade students at RCI celebrated in the best way. They spent the afternoon outside getting artsy and creative while working together on a collaborative poster. You can see that here. Each student colored a small portion, and when all the pieces came together, it created quite a masterpiece. So it's a wonderful way to celebrate and appreciate our amazing Earth while showing the power of teamwork. Prom. It was last 2 Saturday nights ago, I think the 18th, and it was an absolute blast. Amazing music, a chocolate fountain, which is starting to become pretty standard, I guess. It was a great event, magical evening, friends, music, dancing. One of the things that makes prom really special is that it's for everybody. You can attend with friends. You can attend with a date. You can attend as an individual. Anybody who wants to go can go in whatever configuration they would like. And I think that's really important. So many thanks to all who helped make this night a success, and a huge shout out to OHS prom coordinator Brandy Husley. She's been doing that work for a while now, and she's getting really good. Oh, and this one. I remember this wonderful student. We have a special alumni spotlight to share. Oregon High School alum Eden Meidel, class of 2020, is making waves in the fashion world. About 7 months ago, Eden moved to New York City to attend the Fashion Institute of Technology. She was building on a bachelor's degree in fashion design from UW-Madison. Before classes even started, she started creating hats in her spare time and sharing them on social media just for fun. What followed was unexpected. Her work quickly gained attention across the fashion industry, even reaching a high fashion and luxury audience. It began with a few fashion influencers who showcased her hats, helping her reach a wider audience. So that exposure led to collaboration with a high fashion stylist and photographer, resulting in Eden creating pieces for the cover story of Harper's Bazaar, Arabia's March issue. I remember her as a little RCI student. I was her principal. The feature highlights model Ugbad Abdi and her inspiring journey from a Kenyan refugee camp to a global fashion stage. While their paths are different, Eden connects deeply with the shared dream of leaving the Midwest to pursue opportunities in New York City. What feels like an overnight transformation probably isn't. Eden has established herself as a recognized designer and milliner. I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm sure it feels overnight, but I think Eden has been working on her creativity all her life. She plans to grow in her millinery business after graduating from the Fashion Institute and UW-Madison, with future goals of studying abroad in London to expand her craft and continue creating. So since her Harper's Bazaar feature, Eden has also been highlighted in Roll Up magazine in both digital and print formats. Congratulations, Eden. And then, of course, don't forget about the podcast. We have a couple of really good ones and some great ones in the works. I can't wait to talk to the robotics team after they come back from their world championship. That's it.
Great, thank you. I'll make a plug for those podcasts. Those are excellent. I always look forward to listening to the new release. So that brings us to our closing. We have our next meeting will be May 11th. And checkout. Anyone have anything for checkout tonight? Leslie, we'll start with you.
Welcome, Matt. Glad you're part of the team. And then I just wanted to clarify, since back to the thing I found, the paper, the 700,000 I was talking about is the difference we would get back if we got the 42% versus 35%. So that's the difference in the special education funding from last year. So that's, again, please call your legislatures.
Anyone else for checkout?
Just would second the welcome to Matt to the board. Glad to have you.
Yes, welcome, Matt. We almost made it through, but we do have a closed session. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session on item H1 as provided under Wisconsin Statutes 19.85. That is to discuss any potential non-renewal of certified staff contracts pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.851C and Wisconsin Statutes 118.22.
I'll make it.
We have a motion by Heather. Is there a second? Second by Mary. Katie, could you call the roll?
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Mr. Ledbetter? Yes. Dr. Bush? I'll get there, I promise. Mr. Hensel? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. We are now in closed session. We'll do a 5-minute recess and then meet in the conference room. Thank you, everyone.